1 year ago, I shared in the same conference a vision about how Bitcoin was going to be the cornerstone of the construction of a new internet. An internet that would not only serve the purpose of sharing knowledge, but also would enable the transfer of value in all of its shapes. Whether we are talking about stocks, property titles, money, or even a vote in a democracy or in an autonomous organization. That vision was comprised of multiple layers, where each layer was serving specific purposes in the transfer of value. So we had lower layers that were purposely made to be safe and to contribute to the store of value, but that have limited functionality. That's what we know as Bitcoin. That's the safest network in the world and the best store of value, in my opinion. And then, as we go up in the layered system, we see new layers that offer new functionalities, like business logic, execution in a distributed environment. That's what RSK is bringing to the table. And we also see the scaling problem being solved as each new layer, even the on-blockchain layers, provide new transactions, new volumes, transactional volumes. And even we can go further and add layers that will achieve Visa or Alipay-like throughput going off-chain, like in our case Lumino, which is our implementation of Lightning Network over RSK. And finally, we have a full environment of distributed applications that interact directly with distributed ledgers without intermediaries, enabling the service of millions of users around the globe with this transfer of value functionalities. And it's interesting to see how transactional cost is also tied to transactional volume. The upper layers may achieve transaction costs that are sub-cent, way below 1 cent, maybe 1 or 2 orders of magnitude less than the underlying layers. So when we talk about Bitcoin, we have 15 cents per transaction, and that enables only a certain use cases to be developed. Let aside the smart contract or the business logic functionality. But when we go to RSK, we go down to 1 cent, and with one new technology we are developing, we might achieve 5,000 transactions per second, even going to 0.1 cent per transaction. And why this transactional cost is important is because part of the vision I shared last year is that if you combine this Internet of Value, this new internet, with a phenomenon that is happening in the world, that is that most of the unbanked, the excluded people in the world are accessing to smartphones. They are jumping directly to a smartphone. That combination will enable financial inclusion to become a reality. And for financial inclusion to become a reality, you need low transactional costs. That's a must. So this was the vision I shared last year. And 1 year later, I'm here sharing with you what had happened over this year. We were merely a white paper back then at RSK. And today, this architecture, that was the idea we shared, where we were creating a completely synergetic system of a smart contract that would integrate with Bitcoin and create full alignment with Bitcoin ecosystem, it's already a reality. So the main decisions we made back then were we were not going to issue a new currency. We were going to use Bitcoin as our currency to run smart contracts. In order to do that, we created a two-way peg. For now, it's based on a federation, but we already proposed a BIP to create a trustless two-way peg with Bitcoin to transfer value back and forth between RSK blockchain and Bitcoin blockchain. And the other big decision is that we decided to use the Bitcoin network to secure our blockchain. So we created a system where all the Bitcoin miners of the world could easily, without doing any additional investment, start merge mining. That means securing both Bitcoin and RSK blockchains at the same time. In that way, what we did is we gave miners of the world, Bitcoin miners of the world, a new revenue stream by securing smart contracts. And we took two additional decisions. One is that we were going to build a federation. That federation is comprised of the 25 most important companies in the Bitcoin ecosystem, wallets and exchanges. And with that, we have a hybrid model where the mining network plus the federation offers security services. The federation is not mandatory, but we think in many use cases, in corporate use cases, having a federation offers additional control to the institutions. So you have the best of both worlds, the completely free proof of work mining network, and then you have a federation if you're a corporation and want to have more control over what's happening with your smart contracts. And the fourth decision we made is that we would be completely compatible with Ethereum, with Solidity, and we have done so. So we are completely and will remain completely compatible with Ethereum because we think the whole ecosystem, the whole smart contract ecosystem, is stronger by having multiple platforms with common standards. So, of all this vision and how we see the ensemble of components that comprise our ecosystem and that make our proposition valuable. On the first element, the mining side, we already have agreements with 70% plus of the mining operations in the world to start implementing RSK, merge mining. We already have an operation, a mining operation, fully merge mining, Bitcoin and RSK at the same time. If you look at the headers of some Bitcoin blocks, you will see RSK block printed in there. That's because those blocks were merge mined by Bitcoin and RSK. So you can go to our stats page and see those 4 petahash already live. We also are working with all of the main pools, Unpool, BitClub, Bitcoin India, Bitfury, BTCC, BW, and Slash to implement our plugin to do merge mining. And I think in the next 1 or 2 months, we will have every one of them at least doing some merge mining. And we hope to have a significant presence in our public launch in May of the Bitcoin mining network. And one thing that we achieved that is very important is that we achieved 0 efficiency loss on the Bitcoin side. A lot of the critiques on doing merge mining was that doing merge mining would impact efficiency on the Bitcoin side. And we managed to avoid that. So that's, I would say, a great achievement. On the industry side, on the stakeholders of RSK, we have some of the biggest miners and VCs in the industry participating in RSK already. And in the second round that we are finishing in the next 2 months, we will add many new important incumbents in Middle East and Latin America that will complete the picture of partners that will help us develop the network of businesses and solution providers that we want to have on a global scale. And once we launch, we might do an ICO to also let participate individuals into into the company, but we didn't want to do that until we were fully functional. Um, we also built a team. We have 15 people working at RSK. 10 of them are highly technical and top-notch. We have our chief scientist and co-founder, Sergio Lerner. That is one of the best security experts in the Bitcoin space. I would say he found most of the vectors of attack found so far in Bitcoin. And then an excellent team that also has a lot of experience on the financial area, on the financial industry, which complements the whole team with both knowledge of the traditional financial system and the technological side and the disruption that Bitcoin brings. Then we are working already with many DApp partners that ported and tested their solutions. Some of them were directly developed on RSK, and some of them were developed on Ethereum and ported and tested, and they are fully compatible. We have Jax that is providing support on a wallet, so you can have your smart Bitcoins already on Jax if you download Jax on Android. And you can go to faucet.rsk.co to get your first smart Bitcoins. We have Wings that is developing decentralized autonomous organizations and ICOs in a very secure way. They take in a very scientific approach to it. So I think they will succeed where other efforts have failed. And then you have Oraclize, which contributes something that is very important for smart contracts, because smart contracts require external information from the outside world in order to take decisions. Let's say if you want to know if hail fall down on a particular farm and pay insurance for that, somebody has to tell you what the weather is in that place. So Oracle services will be key for the development of practical smart contract use cases. And then we have a federation, as I said, with 25 of the most relevant companies in the Bitcoin ecosystem. And this federation will be key to provide services like the one I said, Oracle services, certification services, and to enable what we call the licensed blockchains, which is the usage of a public blockchain, but with licensing or certification servers. So that's an intermediate between doing a private blockchain and a public blockchain. And finally, what we are starting to build, and we hope in May on our public launch will be ready, it's a network of ambassadors that are reaching out to companies that might profit from smart contracts solutions, teaching them how smart contracts can help them on their particular industry, and then connecting them with our solution providers and network of developers. So we are doing this proactively, going to the companies, going to the banks, to the governments, to different institutions, and teaching them how smart contracts can improve transparency, interoperability, operational efficiency from a very practical perspective, and then connecting them with the people who can solve those problems, who can build the solutions for them. And at the same time, we are starting RSK University that will have 2 tracks. One focus on the business development side. That is basically what our ambassadors are doing, teaching the usage of smart contracts per industry. And then one technical side. So all the traditional software developers can upgrade and start understanding how to build distributed applications. What are the architectural challenges of building a distributed application? Finally, I don't know if I ran out of time, but finally, this is how our development roadmap was deployed so far. One nice thing to say is that our team achieved all the milestones we planned ahead with maybe 1 week or 2 weeks delay, which is very uncommon in the software industry. So this is what happened last year. During 2016, we launched our alpha version, the proof of concept of all the elements of the platform in May, at Consensus. We implemented CK Pool. That's one of the most used pools. Then in October, we launched the version of Alloy Pool. We launched our testnet, which already has our specific consensus protocol that has some improvements over Ethereum consensus protocol in terms of selfish mining attacks. And in November, we did the official launch of our testnet and complete the slash pool implementation. So basically, we have all the mining pool softwares already covered and working with zero efficiency loss on the Bitcoin side. And this year, we have a great challenge that is basically bringing on board all the mining community, all the Bitcoin mining community of the world into RSK, into merge mining. Also proving that smart contracts can be useful, can have real impact in people's life. And we are working with financial institutions in Latin America, development banks. I'm talking with the Central Bank of Argentina to issue a digital representation of peso, connected with an effort to do a financial inclusion program in the slums, in the Villa 31 in Buenos Aires. So we are really taking this technology to the real world. And that was what made us create RSK in the first place. That was the vision that we were chasing when we started this. Make financial inclusion a reality through blockchain and smart contracts technology. So hopefully, if we can bring everybody together on board on this and prove that we can make this technology usable for transforming our society, I will come next year and meet you again and be accountable for my promises. Thank you. Yes, the testnet, if you go to stats.rsk.co, you will see the network fully functional. And that's where our solution partners are testing their applications. And we tested Truffle, for example, that is a framework that Consensus created for Ethereum, and it's working perfectly, seamlessly, without any modification. So we have been testing many of the core smart contract applications that run on Ethereum on our platform, and we solve all the glitches we found along the way. So that now it's fully functional. Yes. Well, as we see RSK, first you have the safest network securing your smart contracts, so it's maybe 6 times safer than the Ethereum network. Second, you have the cheapest execution cost, because being subsidized in a way by Bitcoin, because all the infrastructure is already in place, RSK will always have the cheapest execution cost. And second, we have a strong focus on security and stability. Given that Sergio is our chief scientist and he's a security expert, as I said, he helped harden Bitcoin a lot over the years. He was also an auditor of Ethereum, Zcash. He's an auditor of many of the big platforms. Instead of trying to push the technology limits, our focus is more on making a robust, secure, and stable platform in the short term. So I would say those are the big differentials: cheapest execution cost, more security and stability for real use cases. Yes. Well, we didn't want to do an ICO without. Sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry. What are the probabilities of an ICO of RSK? What would be the valuation and the value proposition for end investors? That's the thing. We didn't want to open, a public offering without understanding properly, the full ecosystem. And that's something you can only know once the thing is running and people start developing, deploying their solutions into us. So that's why we delayed the decision. We have been asked many, many times to do an ICO over the last year, and we didn't do it because of that. We want to make sure that once we understand what's the value proposition in terms of what might be the potential revenue of the platform, how it works, then we will let the public participate, because we think it's the more responsible thing to do. So it will happen if we find a way to share the profits of RSK with the general public in a responsible way. Yes. Well, what we did is we created our own virtual machine that is fully compatible with Solidity. But indeed, our virtual machine is 6 times faster than Ethereum. I don't like to be comparing with Ethereum all the time, because I think that multiple smart contract solutions exist is a good thing for the ecosystem. So in my point of view, what we have with Ethereum is a friendly competition where I want Ethereum to thrive. But again, as we are not developing multiple VMs. We only have one VM developing Java. So we are very focused on efficiency. That's how we managed to have 6 times faster VM. And indeed, we see ourselves as a runtime environment. So in the future, other languages might be implemented. So we might implement DAML, for example, from digital assets. Or so the idea is that we are providing distributed execution, for multiple environments. So you could have like a common blockchain, a common database with multiple languages interacting with it. So, yes. Well, I'm also the president of the Argentinian and Latin American Bitcoin NGOs. So I'm well aware of what's happening in Latin America in general. Um, Indeed, it's interesting that in Venezuela, people is like living off having a single Bitcoin miner in the basement. Like maybe they do $2-3 per day, and that's enough for them. So they are like accessing to all hardware that is no longer usable anywhere else in the world, and they use it and they live out of it. And they also use that to buy things outside Venezuela and send them to them, like buy things in the US and then ship them. So they are actually using Bitcoin to mitigate a little bit the general situation. But of course, that's not reaching the general public. We have over here one member of our Latin American community, that's Arlie Lozano, that is very involved in the mining scene, and he knows everything. So if you manage to cross around him, ask him, because he will give you like the real answers. You're welcome. Oh, um, well, Latin America is like a broad concept. Latin America is a patchwork more than a block of nations. So it changes from country to country. In Argentina now we have a government that is very pro-technology, not necessarily, I said I'm talking with the Central Bank of Argentina, it's not necessary they are pro-Bitcoin indeed. Indeed, the vice president who is leading this innovation project is anti-Bitcoin in a way, because he's the vice president of the central bank. So, so he wants to keep the monetary policies under his domain. But at the same time, he understands the potential of blockchain technology. So in that sense, in Argentina, we have a very good, like, very sympathetic government that wants this technology to thrive. If you go to Colombia, for example, the situation is that there's a lot of scams, like these OneCoin scams or Triple M scam, all those pseudo cryptocurrencies that are scamming people. So the position of the government was like to forbid everything altogether, because they don't have the distinction between an actual cryptocurrency and a scam. So they just, but we are in talks with also with the government and trying to help understand, again, the potential of the technology beyond, the conflicts that might arise from the monetary part. So I'm very positive in general that this will go. And in Brazil, we have very good relationships with Pinheiro Neto, which is the biggest law firm, the one that created the law for payment processors in Brazil. And they are also talking with the central bank to work on cryptocurrency, regulations, or to create an environment where cryptocurrencies can thrive. So I think in general the outlook for Latin America is very good. Okay, time is up. Thank you.